Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. The past human emperors nodded, sharing the same feeling. Even though every human emperor looked like they deserved a beating in the eyes of their masters, it was the first time they had met such a human emperor that deserved to be beaten by all of them. The past human emperors were all top-notch practitioners of their generations. It wasn't status that had commanded respect from other sects, but their abilities which were strong enough, sweeping away everyone in their age and rarely finding a worthy match. Any human emperor which hadn't fought a few rounds with the gods of high heavens would be too embarrassed to meet their ancestors after dying. Yet how many people were like this in a generation? Yet, Qin Mu, against overbearing strong practitioners like them, actually said he was afraid of injuring them. He even said that their techniques and divine arts had already fallen behind times, so how could they endure? Third ancestor came closer while saying indifferently, all the past human emperors are very haughty, and every one of them is overflowing with haughtiness after death, wanting to beat this and that. However, you are still the first one to say we are behind times. Human Emperor Qin, how remarkable. Disciple beating master is also common. For example me, I have beaten the old geezer before. However, to beat all the old geezers, human Emperor Qin's voice is not small. I would like to see if you actually have this ability. Fourth ancestor said indifferently. Third ancestor gave him a dark look. Second ancestor's expression was imposing as he said, human Emperor Qin is a living person, so how we fight is also another problem. However, first ancestor has a treasure that should still be around here. It's called Between Life and Death, and it can situate us between life and death, which would be the most suitable to exchange blows. The past human emperors all frowned. First ancestor is not here, so who can use Between Life and Death? Second ancestor smiled and said, as the disciple of first ancestor, I'm the owner of Sacred Hall of Five Young when he's not around, so I can naturally use it. Be quiet, I'm very familiar with this place, even more familiar than with my own home. Wait for me, let me fetch Between Life and Death. Everyone was slightly curious. They had heard of Between Life and Death but never seen this treasure before. They had heard that it was because first ancestor missed his wife that he crafted it to create a passage to Yudu so he could meet her there. However, his treasure didn't have much use or power, so people that crafted these kinds of items were few in numbers. Yet using Between Life and Death for living people and dead people to fight couldn't be any more clever. Not much later, second ancestor came back, and everyone saw that his hands were empty. They couldn't help being bewildered and asked suspiciously, second ancestor, where is Between Life and Death? This is Between Life and Death. Second ancestor's sleeves trembled, and a long river flew out from his sleeves. The huge river flew out of Sacred Hall of Five Young, becoming wider and wider. It stretched across several hundred miles and floated in the sky above Fengdu City. Everyone hurriedly walked out of Sacred Hall of Five Young where they saw a long river floating in the sky. It even had a flying bridge hanging above it. In the river, there was also a decorated pleasure boat that was berthed under the bridge. Everyone cheered and exclaimed, to meet with wife, first ancestor actually exhausted immense magic power to craft this treasure. Go, let's go up to the bridge. Qin Mu also followed them up. The moment they stepped on the bridge, something strange suddenly happened. He actually saw flesh and blood growing on his body. Upon coming to the living realm of the dead were revived and the living were changed into skeletons. Yet the river and the bridge could actually allow him to recover his flesh and blood. It was truly strange. The past human emperors stood on the bridge, but they didn't shed their flesh and blood too. They still had complete corporeal bodies. From that, it was evident that this was the marvelous ability of Between Life and Death. When I controlled Moon Ship to become Moon Guardian, I had to withstand the suppression of the living realm of the dead while keeping a body of flesh and blood. Looks like first ancestor's abilities are definitely much stronger than those of Moon Guardian. Qin Mu exclaimed in admiration in his head. First ancestor human emperor's abilities were profound mysteries. He was no doubt an outstanding talent of founding emperor era. However, this Between Life and Death isn't useless, instead, it's an effective implement. He blinked, and his heart pounded. He immediately thought of the greatest use of between life and death, which allowed Fengdu to interfere with the world of the living, to interfere with reality. Between life and death could interfere with the world of the living and allow the gods of Fengdu to descend on the world of the living. Even though the surface of the river wasn't huge, it was still extraordinary. Thinking about it, the gods and devils of Fengdu were in tens of thousands. If they descended on the mortal world, who could be a match for them? If between life and death was used properly, it's an immensely powerful weapon. Qin Mu stood on the head of the bridge and looked at the river flowing toward Yudu. He could faintly see its darkness on the other side. The river was extremely wonderful, and it was obvious that it wasn't ordinary in any way. In Fengdu City, countless gods and devils raised their heads to look at the huge river floating in the sky. It was gently floating and looked extremely elegant. Those human emperors again. The god lowered his head to look away. He then spoke to everyone in the surroundings. Ever since these fellows came to Fengdu, more and more of them showed up, and they are becoming more and more arrogant. They are a force of our Fengdu, but I'm afraid only those devils could be a match for them. No need to look, disperse, let them forget themselves in their fight. First Ancestor met his wife by sending this pleasure boat into Yudu to guide the souls of his wife out. They would then meet on the bridge. On the bridge between life and death, Second Ancestor's face dimmed. After the incident of their meetings being discovered by Yudu, the soul of Master's wife was taken away by the messengers of death. First Ancestor actually didn't know about this and still stood on the bridge to wait for her, but he didn't see nor hear her for dozens of years. At that time, I had stood beside the river and seen him growing older day by day. Let's not talk about this. He roused his spirit and looked at Qin Mu. He chuckled and said with a smile, "There's still an overlord body here that says we are all behind times. It's time to let a younger generation know the immensity of heaven and earth." Qin Mu was endlessly astonished. "Grandmaster, Ancestors, you guys also know I'm an overlord body." On the bridge, the past human emperor all revealed strange smiles and said in unison, "How could we not know? Little Bratsu has told us all about it, we know everything." Qin Mu looked at their strange smiles and was bewildered. Do people all become so weird after they die? Human Emperor Qi Kang smiled with exultation and chuckled. Little Bratsu said he found an overlord body for a disciple who is very powerful, matchless in this world. When we heard about it, we all said that you will definitely beat him to death after you die and make him die a second time. Qin Mu was puzzled. Why would I beat village chief to death? Other human emperors were afraid Qi Kang would let the cat out of the bag and cough repeatedly. Human Emperor Qi Kang understood and smiled. Overlord Body Qin, you said we are old, useless, outdated, behind times, can't fight, so now it's time for us to demand justice. Grandmaster, I had only said your techniques and divine arts were outdated, but I didn't say the rest, Qin Mu immediately said. Tut. Human Emperor Qi Kang gave a shout and leaped down from the bridge. He stepped on the river surface and raised his head to laugh. Enough with the nonsense, let's fight. His aura burst forth, and 7 explosions sounded out one after another. 7 divine treasures instantly opened one after another. His primordial spirit was incomparably powerful and stood upright on the divine bridge. Stars whooshed and gathered and transformed into a Milky Way to swirl around him. Below the divine bridge was the dark Yudu, and between the heaven and earth were the sun and the moon, 5 elements. They combined together to become 7 stars, each with a god standing upright on them. Below 7 stars was the land formed by the spirit platform, and the 6 directions was already established. Human Emperor Qi Kang was incomparably overbearing, and he raised his hand to seal his divine bridge divine treasure, which then vanished gradually. He then sealed his life and death divine treasure, and Yudu vanished. He then sealed his celestial being realm, and his primordial spirit vanished. His aura weakened, but the haughtiness remained just as wild. As he stood on the river surface, visions of black volcanoes erupting actually formed behind him. Human Emperor Qi Kang stretched out his right hand and formed a tight fist. He beckoned Qin Mu with his index finger. Overlord Body Qin, come over. Qin Mu's heart started to pound as though he was delighted at seeing a prey. He couldn't suppress his excitement, but he still hesitated. Second ancestor, third ancestor, our human emperor bloodline doesn't have any 3 knives and 6 holes punishment for beating up our grandmasters and ancestors, right? The past human emperors smiled. We aren't a devil cult like heavenly devil cult, so why would we have 3 knives and 6 holes punishment? Just go. Qin Mu relaxed and took a step. Landing on the river surface, he said solemnly, Grandmaster, if I offend you, just fight if you want to fight. Human Emperor Qi Keng shouted out and stepped forward with a punch. The visions of the volcanoes behind him instantly became extremely violent as they suddenly erupted. Flames blazed, and black smoke and ashes rushed into the sky. They filled the sky as the river started to boil. The vibration from his fist power and fist will actually cause the river water around Qin Mu to rise up. It separated it into droplets strung in a line, gently vibrating up while flowing into the sky. Human Emperor Qi Keng rushed into the river water that was flowing up with his fist becoming bigger and bigger, becoming more and more overbearing. His aura became even more violent. Formation markings swirled in Qin Mu's eye, and the Milky Way in his eyes wrapped around the sun. He could clearly see Human Emperor Qi Keng's face colliding with the droplets of water and the process of the droplets exploding on his face and splattering out. Blinds 9 heavens eyes awakening skill. Boom! Violent vibrations came from the river surface and Qin Mu's fist collided with Human Emperor Qi Keng's fist. Their clothes fluttered backward. The magma and flames from the volcanoes by Human Emperor Qi Keng looked like they were suddenly snapped as they soared into the sky. They were sent straight back by a hurricane. Human Emperor Qi Keng's expression changed drastically, and he felt an unbearable feeling in his chest. Such sick vital qi cultivation. The river water that was flying in the air suddenly paused, and Qin Mu's fist changed into palm with his vital qi going berserk. 8,000 swords. The droplets of river water in the sky were pulled over and transformed into fine swords. 8,000 swords executed the 17 sword forms, changing unpredictably to attack Human Emperor Qi Keng together. Human Emperor Qi Keng's expression changed, and he rose into the air to retreat. His body fell back freely as though he was a swan goose flying on the river surface. He went up and down thrice, his body movements extremely strange. He avoided the transformations and attacks of the 8,000 swords time and time again. Qin Mu took a step forward, his speed unimaginably fast. He raised his hands, and countless water droplets landed in them to form a long sword which slashed down. Swoosh! Countless sword lights burst forth from his sword, and the swords that were like a storm drowned out their target. Human Emperor Qi Keng gave a shout and rose into the sky. He waved his hand, and apparitions of palms filled the sky. Suddenly, the sound of swords breaking through the air rang out as the swords formed by Qin Mu swirled and sliced open his palms. Instantly, the 2 palms were like sieves. Ha! Qin Mu's huge foot stepped heavily on the river surface, and a stream of river water soared into the sky like a water dragon. Qin Mu stretched his hands for a grab and used the water dragon as a spear, moving along with it. Countless traces of a spear stabbed Human Emperor Qi Keng, who was in midair. He was hung on the spear before being swung up by Qin Mu to be smashed ruthlessly onto the river surface. It exploded. The water dragon spear in Qin Mu's hand dispersed, and he raised his hands high up toward the sky. Thunder and lightning crisscrossed to transform into a lightning dragon which struck where Human Emperor Qin Keng had fallen. Great overarching heavenly stars palm force. Qin Mu raised his hand to throw a mudra out, and behind him stars filled the sky, forming the terrifying great overarching divine out force field. The apparition of 360 gods appeared in the force field, all of them striking with their palms. This strike had no sound. The huge river trembled violently and warped in the air. This came from the 360 different palm forces erupting at the same time, forming a distorted force field. Qin Mu pulled back his hand, and after a moment, Human Emperor Qi Keng rose from underwater and floated down the river, passing by the long bridge of life and death. On the bridge, the past human emperors stretched their heads out to look, then turned to each other in dismay. After a moment, fourth ancestor said softly, about overlord body, was Little Su lying to us? Could this world really have an overlord body? On the bridge, the past human emperors had weird expressions. Village chief had told them that he had made up overlord body, which was a white lie used to motivate Qin Mu, this mortal body, to work hard. And they had believed him. Yet at the same realm, human emperor Qi Kang was actually at a disadvantage from the first move. Afterward, he was beaten up to a point that no mortal body should be able to do with just hard work. How could it be possible for a mortal body to rely only on hard work to beat a human emperor to such a point? Because of that, even the past human emperors couldn't help doubting if overlord body truly didn't exist in the world. On the bridge, human emperor Yi Shan's vital qi transformed into a huge hand and poked human emperor Qi Khan, who was floating downstream, with a snow-white finger that looked like jade. Human Emperor Qi Kang lay with his arms spread out and stared at the sky with wide eyes. He was motionless, and after being poked, he sank into the water before floating back up. Good disciple, have you accepted having been beaten by your grand disciple? Human Emperor Yi Shan asked while holding back a laugh. Damned old man, don't poke me, let me have some peace, Human Emperor Qi Kang said unpleasantly. I'm just weirded out by the beating, not that I've accepted it. I just want some time to think about how I've lost. Human Emperor Yi Shan burst into laughter and rejoiced in his misfortune. Still saying that you haven't accepted your defeat. Human Emperor Qi Kang flipped over and lay on the water with his butt facing upward, letting the current bring him far away. Qin Mu couldn't help worrying and shouted, Grand Master, don't choke on the water. Human Emperor Yi Shan laughed. This brat is always like this when he loses. Ignore him, he's wiping his tears and don't want you to see it. Qin Mu felt uneasy in his heart. He had beaten his grandmaster until he was wiping tears in the river. This kind of thing was somewhat disgraceful. As a youth taught by disabled elderly village, he usually respected the elders, but of course, cripple and mute didn't suffer a lack of beatings from him when fighting on the same realm. I may have been too heavy with my blows. Grandmaster, my fist skills are actually inferior to yours, and I just relied on denser cultivation to overwhelm you, so don't be sad. Qin Mu jumped on the head of the bridge and leaned on the railing. He stretched himself over and shouted to Qi Kang, who was floating away. I didn't mean to be so heavy with my blows. I saw Grandmaster's abilities being abnormally strong, so my competitive spirit couldn't help arising, and I used my full power straight away. I rarely do that when meeting experts of the same realm nowadays. He was slightly desolate and looked sorrowful. After all, I'm the overlord body. I thought I could encounter experts on the same realm who could be a match for me, but who knew that Grandmaster's abilities were a little poor. But this isn't your fault. On the bridge, the human emperors held back their anger while watching the young human emperor showing a longing in his eyes as he looked at Qi Kang, who was floating down the river. If only ancestors and grandmasters could be part of the same generation as me, it would have been great. If we were born in the same generation, you guys could improve with me and be a match for me. It's a pity you guys lived so long ago and can't catch up to the generation of Eternal Peace Imperial Preceptor and me when we're doing the reform. As a result, your divine arts, paths, and skills are behind times. The fists of the ancestors cracked, and they held themselves back fiercely from blowing up. Human Emperor Lan Po hid her smile while gritting her teeth. The sound was horrifying. Even though the brat's words were very humble, every sentence could anger living people to death and dead people to life. This made the past human emperors want to just press him down against the ground and beat him up. Overlord Body Qin, you have only defeated that brat Qi Kang and are already saying that our paths, skills, and divine arts are behind times. Isn't it a little too boastful? Human Emperor Yi Shan's tone was stiff even if he spoke with a pleasant expression. Come, let me teach you what divine arts are like. Qin Mu revealed a troubled expression when he turned around to look at this great grandmaster that was only 5 feet tall. Ancestor, the path you took was the path of the divine arts, and they are indeed very strong. However, by being so close to me, you've already died 1, 2, 3, 4, 16, 17 times. Human Emperor Yi Shan couldn't restrain his anger and raised a ball of lightning in his hands while holding back his urge to smack the brat to death. When so close, the experts of Celestial Being Realm wouldn't be able to even take a move from me. Qin Mu seemed to have no emotion as he continued to talk by himself. What ancestor cultivates is divine arts. However, cultivating divine arts means you are lacking in regard to the corporeal body. Since we are so close, just the time of a sentence the ancestor speak is enough for me to kill you 20-30 times. Human Emperor Yi Shan almost puked blood, and his face went black. He jumped off a bridge, and a cloud caught his stout figure up as he said angrily, "Rascal's tone is pretty arrogant. Let me pull our distance first before fighting then." The cloud below him feet lifted him up and went upstream urgently. After 5 or 6 miles, Human Emperor Yi Shan felt that the distance was about right. However, he suddenly remembered how fast Qin Mu's sword skill was and felt that the distance wasn't too safe either, so he got 3 more miles back. When he remembered how fast Qin Mu's speed was and how easy he had caught up to Qi Kang earlier, he distanced himself by another 2 miles. I can't move back anymore, or they will think that I'm scared of losing to my great-grand disciple. Human Emperor Yi Shan looked back, and since the distance was too far, the bridge had already become a fine line and Qin Mu was a dot on the fine line. Human Emperor Yi Shan blushed. Running so far in a short while was indeed a cowardly act. Come down, eh? Human Emperor Yi Shan had a steady heartbeat and his voice was vigorous. He looked exactly like Human Emperor Qi Kang. On the bridge, second ancestor shouted, "Yi Shan, you've forgotten to seal your divine treasures." Human Emperor Yi Shan's face turned red again. He was too nervous and as a result, had forgotten to seal his divine treasures. He immediately sealed his 3 great divine treasures and shouted again in high spirits, "Come down, eh?" Thump. Qin Mu jumped onto the river. Connecting walls tapping blue mountains. Human Emperor Yi Shan made the first move, and in his wide sleeves, his 5 stubby fingers were moving up and down. Instantly, over 10 miles of river beneath his feet exploded, and water formed into blue mountains. The ridges and peaks piled up into a range while rumbling. The huge river transforming into blue mountains might look beautiful, but this was a divine art that secretly contained a killing intent. Yi Shan's divine arts had entered the path, but different from other people's divine arts, his wouldn't explode with power if they weren't activated. Only if one was inside his divine art, a slight movement could activate an overwhelming disaster. The blue mountains that were rising fiercely instantly came to Qin Mu's side, and he couldn't help becoming excited. He was so excited that every speck of his vital qi was trembling, even more active than usual. This is the source of Village Chief's first move. Village Chief's sword treading mountains and rivers is from this move of Human Emperor Yi Shan. From divine art to sword skill, Village Chief is indeed a genius. Qin Mu was beyond excited and couldn't help howling. True Dragon Overlord body. Too excited. He had suffered numerous times under Village Chief's sword treading mountains and rivers back when he had learned this move for the first time. At the time, he had been defeated repeatedly under Village Chief's hands. Now that his horizons and knowledge were no longer like before, meeting the origin of sword treading mountains and rivers made him feel like he was competing with Village Chief once again. He was so excited that he couldn't help executing True Dragon Overlord body. His vital chi grew boundless, and every strand of it that leaked out of his body presented a different dragon form. True Dragon Overlord body was the strong corporeal body divine art that he had comprehended by combining the cultivation method of the dragon race from the True Dragon's Nest with Overlord Body 3 elixir technique. His vital chi changed into dragon vitality, which shook the surrounding space, forming all kinds of strange dragon markings. They looked like runes and talismans as they lighted up continuously on his body. He was using corporeal body divine art to fight against a spell divine art. Qin Mu rushed straight ahead. He stepped on the mountains while sprinting straight for Human Emperor Yi Shan, who was over 10 miles away. Boom, boom, boom. His fists and legs moved swiftly. Hundreds of true dragons danced around him and roared powerfully, smashing the mountains and rivers to smithereens. He let the divine art of Human Emperor Yi Shan bombard him, but it could not break through the defense of his True Dragon Overlord body. Human Emperor Yishan's expression changed drastically. The fellow was actually so powerful that he could use his corporeal body to break through the divine art. Yishan then immediately changed his divine art and attacked frantically while thinking to himself, "Let me see how you break this. You are in for a beating if you come here." Mountains crumbled and transformed into rising waves. On the bridge, the past human emperors felt the raging fighting spirit from Qin Mu's corporeal body assaulting their faces with gales and fluttering their clothes. This kind of corporeal body divine art is even stronger than that of second ancestor. Third ancestor said solemnly. "To you, you're skilled in formation calculation and your attainments in algebra are unmatched in this world, so can you calculate where his flaw is?" In human Emperor Tuol Yu's eyes, countless formations lighted up and dimmed as he frantically calculated the arrangements of all kinds of dragon markings around Qin Mu's moving body. Based on them, he calculated the transformations of the dragon markings on his skin. From there, he calculated the vital qi circulation in his body, the movement of his muscles, and the operating method of his power. He then calculated the operating path of Qin Mu's technique and the circulation path of his vital qi in his divine treasures. The amount of calculation required was too much, and they were all complicated, but human Emperor Tuol Yu was unruffled and had plenty of strength left. He was the strongest formation expert of his era, and his attainments in algebra even won over the Tao master of that time. As he debated with Tao sect, none of them was unconvinced. By then, the past human emperors had already seen how powerful Qin Mu was and speculated that they would only be in for a beating on the same realm. Being defeated was a small matter, but it was a huge matter when considering the humiliation of it. That was why they had no choice but to ask human Emperor Tuol Yu to first calculate Qin Mu's flaw so they could get a chance at a victory. This was an act of helplessness. He has a flaw. Human Emperor Tuol Yu's eyes lighted up. Meanwhile below, Qin Mu was like a hot knife going through butter as he sprinted straight for human Emperor Yishan. Human Emperor Tuol Yu said solemnly, "His flaw is at his human center." "Wait a minute, it has shifted, it's now at the left shoulder." "No, it's at the back now." "Where is it exactly?" Human Emperor Lan Po asked angrily. "Great Grandmaster, can you do it or not?" Human Emperor Tuol Yu was about to speak when human Emperor Yishan below executed his strongest divine art, which was God's sealing finger. It attracted everyone's gaze. God's sealing finger sealed the vital qi and primordial spirit by attacking the soul. This was the divine art that human Emperor Yishan used to fight against the gods of high heavens and even succeeded time and time again. When he tapped with his finger, waves weren't raised and wind didn't blow. Qin Mu had already come before him, and the two of them were only a mile away. However, that strike reached the heart of Qin Mu's brows instantly, giving him no time to react. "Nice!" Everyone on the bridge praised in unison. "A finger from God. Let's see how arrogant can little overlord body still be." At that moment, the heart of Qin Mu's brow split apart, and a tiny spirit embryo appeared. It merged with his soul and transformed into a primordial spirit. Layers of formation swirled frantically in its eyes as the Milky Way coiled around and the sun erupted. Two rays of light shot out while humming. One of them broke through the God-sealing finger by human Emperor Yishan as easily as smashing rotten wood. Such a powerful primordial spirit made everyone on the bridge stared down with their eyes wide open. They saw the other ray of light shoot toward human Emperor Yishan's chest and broke through his body protection divine art, causing a flaw to appear. Sword treading mountains and rivers. The vital qi around Qin Mu's body that was raging like dragons suddenly transformed into countless flying swords that drowned out human Emperor Yishan. The imposing mountains and rivers made up of 10,000 swords rumbled loudly as human Emperor Yishan was stabbed all over before falling headfirst into the river. Sword of founding Emperor, sea of blood. Suddenly, the 10,000 swords merged, and the long river instantly seemed as though it was dyed with blood. Countless heads of gods and devils floated up, creating a terrifying scene of bloodshed. Qin Mu shifted sideways and slashed down with his sword. Human Emperor Yishan rose from the sea of blood and floated downstream. After a moment, the vision vanished and the river water became clear again. Qin Mu looked at the bitter face of human Emperor Yishan who floated away. The white-haired and plump elder stared at him with a look of dying with a grievance. Qin Mu scratched his head and started, "Ancestor Yi Shan." Human Emperor Yi Shan made a splash as he flipped over to face down while his butt faced the sky and floated away silently. "Found it!" Human Emperor Tuol Yu's eyes lit up, and he said in delight, "His flaw lies in his dantian, the third one counting from the end of his backbone. That's the source of his flaw. I'll go beat this rascal to death." Lan Po was full of zest as she carried her basket while jumping down the bridge. She sprinted straight for Qin Mu with a smile. "Little Qin, let Granny fight in spirit weapons with you." Human Emperor Tuol Yu hesitated for a moment, feeling that he might have missed something. Suddenly, he slapped his head and cried out, "I'm wrong. He only has 3 divine treasures and not 4. He had merged 6 directions divine treasure and 7 stars divine treasures into 1. I calculated according to the circulation path of 4 divine treasures, so the flaw calculated is thousands of miles away from the true flaw. Say no more." The raging river calmed down, and under the bridge, Human Emperor Lan Po floated by with all kinds of spirit weapons from her basket scattered around. Bitterness was written on her face as she gritted her teeth while saying, "Say no more, Great Grand Master. The moment I made my move, I knew you had calculated wrongly." Human Emperor Tuol Yu's face turned red, and he looked to the other human emperors on the bridge. "I will not calculate wrongly now. What are these expressions? I really won't calculate wrongly now." The other human emperors had weird expressions, and they were all silent. Tuol Yu was always the most reliable one among them, and his attainments in algebra were known to be unmatched in the world. Yet against Overlord Body Qin, mistakes actually showed up even with his algebra attainments. When facing an overlord body like Qin Mu, any mistake could result in total humiliation. For precaution, they would rather not trust Human Emperor Tuol Yu's calculations. Human Emperor Tuol Yu was angered and jumped down the bridge. "You guys don't trust me? Can I still be wrong? I'll go down and cripple this brat for all of you to see. Great overarching heavenly stars palm force." On the bridge, Second Ancestor said calmly, "Look, I said his calculations were wrong, right? Now he's floating. If we believed him, the ones floating now would be us." Third Ancestor and the other past emperors had the same sentiments. Human Emperor Qing Ning popped his head out and rejoiced at the other's misfortune. "Master, where did you calculate wrong now?" Human Emperor Tuol Yu had nothing left to live for and said with a stupefied expression, "Primordial spirit. I calculated his primordial spirit wrongly, it's stronger than I reckoned. But I feel that I've seen through him now." He leaped out from the water and landed on the bridge all drenched. He had a smile of exultation. "I definitely won't calculate wrongly this time, so I can definitely tell you where his flaw is. Just believe me this once." The past human emperors yawned while Human Emperor Qin Ning's gaze flickered. Since Master has already seen through his flaw, Master can go down again and defeat the rascal. We will cheer for Master. Human Emperor Tuol Yu took out his abacus spirit weapon and slapped his disciple's head with it. "As a disciple, not only are you not supporting your master, you're even rejoicing in my misfortune. What have I taught you? I taught you the path of calculation, yet you learned some temperament. Go down and beat him up for me." Qing Ning turned his head to look at Human Emperor Kong Xian, who was overjoyed, and kicked him down the bridge. "I taught you temperament, yet you cultivated some spells with words? Go down and beat him up for me." Human Emperor Kong Xian saw Qin Mu rushing over and immediately waved his hands while shaking his head. Human Emperor Qin is indeed an overlord body, so there's no need to fight. Qin Mu immediately stopped and smiled. "I'm also not someone who likes fighting. I just feel that the paths, skills, and divine arts of ancestors and grandmasters can still be improved, even if they are already powerful. If you could continue to develop their power, you would definitely surpass your past selves. Especially Ancestor Kong Xian's spells with words are extremely extraordinary. It's the most marvelous divine art I have ever seen." Human Emperor Kong Xian was delighted and couldn't contain his joy. "You also think my divine art is extraordinary?" Qin Mu nodded, and his 2 hands moved as he walked on the river. He made the sealing pose and said, "When I saw Ancestor attacking Ancestor Qing Ning, you used this move to directly seal Ancestor Qing Ning. I wonder what divine art was that?" This is Secrets of Seal Word. Human Emperor Kongxian couldn't conceal his excitement when talking about his divine art. He taught Qin Mu personally how to execute vital qi for Secrets of Seal Word and how he should speak. The crux of spells with words lies in sound wave divine arts and talisman divine arts, merging body movements, footwork, and technique into one, then adding arrays of vital qi runes. Only then can you execute it. Look. He used his vital qi, and his foot moved 2 circles while his hands crossed each other. With his vital qi bursting forth, he shouted, "Seal!" With that shout, his vital qi formed a huge seal word under his feet like ink, and Qin Mu's eyes instantly turned black. He couldn't hear any sounds, all his 5 senses were completely blocked off. He couldn't even sense his own vital qi. The next instant, the feeling of his 5 senses having been sealed vanished. Great divine art. Qin Mu was beyond excited and consulted Human Emperor Kongxian again. Then, after a moment, he tried it for himself, executing Secrets of Seal Word. Seal. A huge seal word instantly appeared on the river under his feet. Human Emperor Kongxian was stunned. He has managed to learn it so fast? He learned the ultimate art of my life on the first try? Could this world really have an overlord body? It isn't just a story that Little Su made up. He was still slightly uncertain. After village chief had entered Fengdu, he had treated lying to Qin Mu about the overlord body as the greatest achievement in his lifetime. He was very proud of it and didn't hide it from any past human emperors. It could be said that all the human emperor, with the exception of Qin Mu, knew that overlord body was fake. Only the youth was kept in the dark. Yet now, human emperor felt that Qin Mu could really be an overlord body. Let me teach you Secrets of Strength Word. This video will end here.